Welcome to the Islington Fostering Information Session. I'm Liz Dolin. I'm a supervising social worker and an assessor, and I'm going to let my friend and colleague Ron here introduce himself.
And my name is Ronald Bates. I'm a foster carer for Islington for the past 6 years. Hi, everyone.
Thanks, Ron. I'm sure you guys have been scouting around looking at different boroughs and different fostering services. Why Islington? Well, we have a fantastic reputation. We're very professional, kind, caring, empathetic, and it's not just me that thinks that. We have been Ofsted rated outstanding, so that's a really good reason to come to us. Now I've said that, I can move on to talk a little bit about fostering. So what is foster care? I'm sure lots of people know quite a bit about it, but it's mainly looking after a child in your own home, helping a child through difficult times in their life and helping them make sense of what's going on for them at that time, and in the future, helping them learn about what's going to happen, making them feel safe and supporting them through these times. Would you say that's kind of it in a nutshell, Ron?
Yeah, I think it's basically trying to give the young people that you're looking after a secure base from possibly what they're accustomed to, so that so that they can really grow and as Liz says, feel safe and secure within the environment that you provide for them. Because the nature of this, if a young person feels that they're secure within a place, they possibly tend to thrive a lot more in terms of that.
Yeah, most certainly. Thank you, Ron. So we're looking for carers to look after children for many reasons. Children might be living in an environment where there's physical, sexual abuse, neglect. We have some young people coming from war-torn countries, so they come here to the UK as unaccompanied minors and need a place to live. During the current, pandemic that we have at the moment, there are young children living in families that need supporting. They may be vulnerable and they need looking after whilst this is going on if they're having to self-isolate. Other reasons, maybe families suffering from mental health, parents not being able to look after their children, suffering from illness, all sorts of reasons. So we are looking for foster carers to help us look after children in those difficult times. Children and young people need temporary foster care. They need longer term placements. Some need looking after on an emergency basis for a short period or a long period. I'm also looking for foster carers who are able to look after children with disabilities, and that's the family-based short break scheme, and that usually runs over a short period of 24 or 48 hours. So, Ron, what do foster carers do?
Right. Try to put it in a nutshell. In a nutshell, foster carers, we have a role of we wear several hats, really. We try to be parents, we try to be advocates for the young people. So just think it within your family unit, you have to take your child to school. So we have to make sure that the child is in school on time with the correct uniform and all of the correct books and everything. We have to make sure that their health is okay. So they have to be registered with a GP. also opticians to check the sights, dental health. So we would arrange all of those meetings for the young person within our care who we are looking after. We'll help them with their homework. We'll try and actually the same thing that you would do for any of your children or your nieces or your nephews. That's our role. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing you need to remember that these young people come with additional trauma. They're not your usual young people because the reason that they're in care, they've been through different difficult situations through no fault of their own. So we have to try to get them to regulate, really get them in a routine where they feel safe and everything. And that's not necessarily very easy because some young people would come to you and maybe they have no particular routine. They go to bed whenever they want, they eat whenever they want, they're on the PlayStation possibly the whole day and everything. So, as you could imagine, trying to get a young person to adapt to your routine, which is a safe routine for them, it's very difficult because they're strangers to you, you're a stranger to them. So it's a matter of getting used to that and giving that young person time, really, because the thing it's not going to happen overnight. And initially, there are going to be some bumps in the road because they want to be with their parents and they're with some strange person that they've never come across before, and you're telling them, oh well, you have to go to bed at this particular time, especially if they're young. You know what I mean? You have to wake up at a certain time and you have to brush your teeth and you have to have a bath and all of that thing. So mainly I think that the main thing is finding a routine, but I think you need to give the young person time, work at the young person's pace. And I think it's very important to listen to the young people. And when I say listen, I mean actively listen and hear exactly what they're actually saying. Because some of them, they might not be able to express themselves um, you know what I mean, in a way that you understand. But it's a matter sometimes is like trying to read between the lines. As I said, foster carers wear many hats, and sometimes we have to distinguish what they're actually saying, because you know what I mean, they might display a certain type of behavior which you think it's wrong. They might it might be tantrums, they might chuck things around, but mainly that you have to look at it. Maybe that behavior, it's a cry for help, and the only way that they know how to express that that's what they know. So then you have to try and unravel that and get them in a place where they're not how should I say, in getting themselves upset, and because the more they're upset, I mean, the least they're going to be able to express themselves. So you have to find ways with them to try to say, right, okay, let's work on a strategy. If you're upset, maybe we can do this. Or if you're not, you know what I mean, sometimes people use cards. You have happy face, sad face. So you can say when you're feeling sad, pick up the sad face, and when you're feeling happy. So you know what I mean. So it's a matter of trying to work through what's best for that young person. And every young person is different. What might work for one is not going to work for the other one. So in a way, it's trial and error. But in saying that, also, um, you might get, well, normally you'll have some information regarding the young person, and they'll be assigned a social worker. So, and you also, as foster carers, you would also have a social worker that you need to speak to. So it's a team effort. Fostering you cannot do on your own. It's a whole team effort. So the child's social worker will be giving you information on that child, and also you'll be working together to find out what's the best approach that you can go with this young people. But you need patience, and most of all, you need resilience, because these young people, they're going to push you, but you need to stay with them, because normally the rewards at the end of it, it's good. It's hard, but then the rewards at it, when you see a young person initially come into your home and they're displaying all of these different types of behaviors that maybe you might have come across or you might not have come across. And then I mean, given a period of time, you see that behavior change, and that young person is developing and actually smiling. Then you think, something, this was actually worth it. So yeah, that's initially in what it
In
is
a
in a
nutshell.
nutshell.
That's brilliant. And Ron, I'm just kind of thinking that, initially you have a young person coming to you. You've been talked to about this new placement that you're getting, and you don't know this person, and they're coming through your door. How does that make you feel? I mean, do you have much information about this young person? Is it a complete unknown?
I think in some cases, what I mean, if it's possibly sometime it's in an emergency situation, you might have very limited information. So you might just have a name, roughly age, the school that they go to, and stuff like that. So you have to, in a way, try to see how you can manage that until the information begins to feed through
Mhm,
from the relevant people, mainly the social workers. In some
mhm,
cases, it's planned, so you'll have lots of information regarding the young person. I
mhm,
mean, you'll have the medical history, the schools, the education, the health, everything from there, any dietary needs and stuff like that that they have. So then you have a reasonable picture of what this young person will need, and then you can work from there in collaboration with the social worker, with the health workers, with the doctors, with the various people that are involved with this young person. But
mhm.
me, I mean, although I've been working with young people for many years before I did fostering, in terms of, I mean, doing youth. But I do still, initially, when I get a placement, I do still get nervous, because it's the unknown. You
Yeah,
don't,
yeah,
I mean, because you just think, oh, am I going to be able to help this young person and stuff like that? Because
yeah.
the nature of it, you want to actually help the young people that's put in your care, and you want to give them the best. So initially, I always get a little bit nervous, but I mean, I'm prepared for every eventuality.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll try to manage wherever I can.
And so how do you kind of prepare yourself and your family and the home? Is there a lot that you have to do when you've got a new placement?
I mean, I think the main thing is the sleeping area where the young person has to stay. You make sure that that's nice and friendly and welcoming, with toys and information and books and games and stuff like that, so that when I mean, and obviously you make sure that it's clean. And when I mean, so that when you're welcoming this young person into your home. So when they come through the door, and you introduce them to your family, and you say, right, this is where you're going to be sleeping. They think, oh, this looks nice. Yeah, I think I'm going to be comfortable here. So it's a matter of, like, if yeah, it has to be child friendly. So if
Mhm.
it's just like if you're welcoming someone in your home,
Yeah.
you want them to feel at ease, you want them to feel relaxed. So you do the best I mean, that you think to make them comfortable. I mean, some of them, they might not appreciate it, because they might say, "Well, I don't like here. I mean, I want to be with my family. You're not my family." Yeah. So you have to be prepared for that. And don't take it personally, because it's not you really that they're lashing out.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
I think a lot of people that are removed from their family environment, however difficult the situation, would like to remain there, wouldn't they? And I suppose you as a foster care have got to work with that, knowing that their family is still very important to them, even knowing what you may know about them. The difficulties that they've been through, and you've got to work with that. You've got to work with their situation, try and help them understand why they're not at home, and continue presumably working with some of the families, some of the parents that you know may not have been very nice to these young people. And you've got to continue working with them, haven't you, in terms of perhaps maintaining contact.
and
And things
and
like that.
yeah, and that's the thing, because you can't, I mean, to do this job, you can't be looking in judgment at anyone. The whole reason, as I said, you want a decent relationship with their parents, because at the end of the day, it's their parents and they love them no matter what. So you try wherever ever possible to keep the relationship between yourselves and the family as amicable as possible. It's not your place to be judging or anything that. They know the situations. So yeah, and obviously, I mean, some of these young people, they're going to have contact with their parents, and you have to take them to this contact and everything like that. And you want the contact to be as smoothly as possible. So if you start off on a, yeah, I mean, on a decent introduction to the parents, then it makes it easier to
Yeah,
actually work with
yeah, yeah.
the birth family.
And you talked a lot about, I suppose what we term the professional network. You were talking about you having a social worker yourself. So you have your supervising social worker who visits you at a minimum of once a month.
Yeah.
Presumably, if you've got difficulties, they will visit you more. The rest of the professional network involves the child social worker,
Mhm.
nurses, or any other health professional, teachers, anybody else that you can think of that you work with that forms part of that?
Yeah, I think I mean, there's sometimes there's some young people, they have so many people in their life. They have counselors, they have mentors, they'll have the psychiatrists, they'll have health visitors, oh, you name it, anything,
Mm,
dentists,
mm,
the optician, the doctors, all, I mean, all matter of professionals that you can actually think.
yeah,
The schools, which you need to make sure that they have the proper education. So I mean, there are lots of people that are involved with these young people when they come into care, because the main thing is to do the best for them.
yeah,
And that's the main thing, because majority of young people who come into care, yeah, I mean, they're at a greater advantage than the normal. I mean, then they'll actually then that actually are not in care,
yeah,
because obviously you can realize that they're worrying about, oh, I've been taken away from my parents, am I going to see them, am I going to see my brother, am I going to see my sister? So they've got all of those things that are going on in their head, and then you have to think, what I mean, if they, how are they going to manage in terms of education and all of those things? So
mm,
it's quite difficult for some of them to manage. So you just have to try and make those transitions as smoothly as possible, and or I would say always keep talking to the young person. I mean, always have that dialogue that you can speak to them. Find time. I mean, it's
yeah,
sometimes you might be tired or whatever reason, and they want to talk, and I think you still have to find that time, because if you're showing that you're interested in what they have to say, that's a massive thing for them. because in some cases they were said, well, no one never listened to me, but you need to find that time, set it aside, and then you can deal with your tiredness after.
Yeah.
So,
I'm thinking, Ron, you're coping with such a lot. You know, you're trying to put yourself in the child's shoes. You're showing empathy, compassion, kindness, patience. How do you manage all of this? What support do you have? I mean, we talked about your supervising social worker. Would that be your main go-to person?
yeah, you normally have your supervising social worker, so you will go to that. Also, there are support groups for foster carers. There's IFCA, the Islington Foster Carers Association, and they hold a coffee morning once a week, and that's arranged by foster carers, and it's run by foster carers for foster carers. So no professionals would
That's
be there
completely
on
independent from Islington, isn't it?
yeah,
From
that's totally independent from that.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
you know what I mean? The only way that the professionals would be allowed is if we invite them, and we normally invite guest speakers to, I mean, it could be management, it could be, I don't know, a mental health team to talk about various issues. So we would invite guest speakers to speak with us, but it's a place where foster carers can meet and discuss situations and really support one another, because you know what I mean, in confidence. So, you know what I mean, you might be having a difficult placement with a young person, and you says, well, I've tried this and I've tried that. And you speak to the foster carers and they'll say, oh yeah, well, you know, I came across a situation like this, and this is what I did. Da da da. And then you might say, oh, okay, I never thought of that. So it's a sort of like, it's an information sharing. It's an information sharing session where you can just sit down and sometimes de-stress, for a want of a better word, because you know what I mean, the role that we play sometimes can be quite a difficult one. So there's that. And also there's training for foster carers.
Lots and lots of training for foster carers, aren't there?
Yeah, there's a
Um,
lot. Yeah. So
and
you
I would say in my experience that there's a training for every different type of age group and experience, maybe medical type of illness or whatever, isn't there? So if you're
yeah. Yeah, I think that, you know, I mean, there's first aid training, there's trauma training, there's training for people with ADHD, you name it,
autism,
the autism, and there's a range of training, and you pick the training that suits you, because
that kind of fits with the young
yeah,
person or
fit,
child that you may
absolutely.
have with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, you know, I mean, you might not want to go to all of them, but you might think, right, I've got a young person who is this, right? I think I'll go to that. So, no, and you know, so you might have a teenager, and I mean, there workshops for them. There's training for issues with teenagers at risk. So,
Relationship and
yeah,
sexual
relationship, sexual
dilemmas.
exploitation. Yeah, you've got young people who might be on the fringes of the gang culture. So there's
Yeah.
lots of training on that, and there are
Mhm.
also support groups for those, for teenagers and for the younger ones. So there are lots of various groups that
Yeah,
you can
support
attend.
groups for all ages. Support
Yeah,
groups for we have a men's group because we don't have very many men, so you know you have time to talk amongst yourselves about any dilemmas that you may feel differ in any way. So we have our men's group,
yeah, absolutely.
family-based short breaks group. Um, what haven't we talked about? As I said, all different ages.
Yeah.
So lots of support, and keep going back to your supervising social worker. So you would be able to contact them at any point, at any time, if you've got a dilemma, as well as them visiting you and having a very formal supervision. so you can turn to them at any time. We've also got a duty system whereby if you've got any problems, I imagine particularly if you're a new carer, that you might have lots of questions, and so you can call the duty system at any point, can't you, just to ask whether you're doing something right, whether you should be worried about something that's happened, anything that occurs. Have you used the duty system?
Yeah, yes, I have used the emergency out of order service. I think I had an issue with one of my young people. So yeah, and it was late at night, so I had to inform them. And that duty service, it's 365 days a year, 24/7. It's manned. So there's always someone at the end of that will be able to answer you, and possibly you could talk through what issues you have in terms with your placement. So as I said, 365 days a year, 24/7, and that's manned. So if you're experiencing any difficulties, you just give them a ring, whatever time on there. Yeah.
So there's quite a lot of support available for you. As I said, just to recap, you've got your support groups, your supervising social worker, lots and lots of training, duty system. So you never need to feel alone. I hope that's not the case ever, that you feel you need to contain anything by yourself. Lots of support there. The other thing that we offer is a payment. You do get paid for your role as a foster carer. I think it's anywhere between 350 and 450, depending on the age group. I think that's about right, isn't it, Ron?
Yeah. So I think there's a breakdown of the figures in the. I think you'll find it in the pack.
Yeah. Anything that people want to confirm, please call on the number below. Anybody on duty will talk you through the situation. The session that we're having now, which we're calling an information session, is usually a much longer session that goes through processes and information in much more detailed fashion. So please call at any time, and we can have a lengthy conversation with you about anything that you're questioning or worried about in terms of you becoming a foster carer. So please do that. I'll just run through the process very quickly of becoming a foster carer. Normally one would attend one of the information sessions, which is what we're running online at the moment, but it would be a much longer session. Following on from the information session is you've been given an information pack. So again, please call at any point to get an information pack from us. In your pack, you will find a form which registers your interest. When we have received that, a supervising social worker such as myself will do a home visit. We're still doing home visits at the moment, but we're doing them virtually. So we will have a conversation like I'm having with Ron online. It may be that you show me your home if we progress to that, or it may be that we just want to have a much more detailed conversation over the phone. But a home visit at some point will be conducted. You will then fill in an application form, which gives us the authority to take up checks and references. These checks and references are mainly a DBS check, which is a police check, a medical. We will contact children's schools if you have children at school age. So we'll contact the schools for a reference. We do a local authority check. And other checks involve partners. If, for example, you have a partner and you have shared children, we will contact the partner for information about what kind of parent you are. That sometimes causes a little bit of conflict with people, and we're willing to talk that through with you because there may be reasons that you don't want us to contact that person, and that often is okay, but we'll talk that through on an individual basis. The biggie after this is the assessment. We do an assessment on you, which is an assessment about you as a person, and this starts from when you're born, and it goes on to the person that you are today. And what you've been through is very relevant in terms of how you manage a young person in care, because there may be certain things that trigger things in you if you've experienced certain things, and maybe that young person triggers some trauma in you. Maybe that will be a bit difficult for you to look after that young person. So we go through your life experience and talk with you about things that might in any way be difficult. Does that make sense, Ron?
Yeah, yeah, no, it does. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, that assessment, as I mean, you could understand, it's quite intrusive, because what the service is trying to do, they're trusting you to look after a vulnerable young person, and they have to get to know you, what type of person you are, right? So they have to know, as Liz mentioned, from when you were born, the dilemmas, the situations that you've been through when you're going to school, through your teen years, through your adult life, through the person you are now. And as I said, although it's intrusive, I think sometimes, I mean, people forget some of the things that they've been through. And what I would always say, no matter what experiences you've been through, good or bad, I think it's a good thing, because it helps you in this role as being a foster care, because you're going to come across so many different things, and the experiences that you've been through, and you've managed them, and you came out the other side, that will make you a better person to understand some of the situations that some of these young people are experiencing. So yes, it is intrusive there, as I said. So I know initially when I first when I did it, I was like, why do you want to know? Why do you want to know about relationships and stuff like that? But I mean, and sometimes you remember stuff and you say, oh yeah, of course, something, I'd forgotten about that. I never, oh yeah, what I mean. So in a way, sometimes it could be therapy for some people. For other people, there might be um things that come up, but that might be difficult. And I think when situations like that come up, I said, you're well within your right to say, right, okay, can we stop this for a minute? Because I mean, some situations that you've been through, you might have dealt with them, but you don't want to go back there, because it's a painful situation. So I mean, and the person who is assessing you as well, they would say, look, can we stop this, and maybe, what I mean, and have a conversation with you after to see how you're feeling. Are you okay to carry on with the assessment, and everything, and then they'll take it from there. But I think they'll go at your own pace. And I think if they think that possibly you're struggling with certain things, they'll give you the opportunity to have a break. And maybe if you think, right, okay, maybe this process is not for me, that's fine. You're well within your right to say, no, I don't really think that fostering is for me. So, and
Yeah.
it's not for everyone, because it's quite, I mean, it's quite challenging. Can be quite
Yeah.
challenging.
I think, as you say, Ron, it's not for everyone. So we give everybody the opportunity to learn as much about fostering and experience as much as they can, ask lots of questions, talk to people such as yourself about your experience. And what I haven't mentioned, I'd forgotten to say, is there is a Skills to Foster training session, which is a 3-day session, which we're also putting online, which is a little bit like what's going on now with Ron and I, except for it's more experiential. We're working in groups, and we're learning in more detail about things and about some of the models that we use to help children, which is called a trauma-based model. So we talk a little bit about that. So there's that training as well that happens prior to the assessment. But quite rightly, Ron, as you're saying, If you're interested in fostering, it's an ongoing learning experience. It's not something that you have to take up now. It's something that you can start, you can stop, you can decide it's not for you, come back to it at a later date. It's absolutely fine. We're here to answer all the questions. So again, please call, please have a chat with us. Had a question that just came up on the screen a moment ago about whether foster children are allowed to see their birth families whilst they're in foster care. In short, yeah, the answer is yes. This is negotiated by the social worker. And this is what Ron was referring to as contact with families. So usually contact takes place in a contact centre, which is actually our office in Islington. But that's, as I said, set up by the child social worker, because they know the situation, they know whether it's a good thing to happen, and usually in the main it is. And so contact will be set up as much as the child would like, or the social worker will make a decision as to how often as well, would be in their interest. Again, Ron, I know you've taken a child's contact many times in different situations. The little ones go almost every day, don't they, to see their birth families?
Yes, some of them can have contact. Throughout the week. I think the most I've done a young person have contact 4 times a week. So you would accompany that young person to contact and and then accompany them back home. But sometimes the thing with contact, as contact can be, for some young people, it can very traumatic in terms of, you're dropping them off to see their birth parents, and the birth parents are speaking to them. Then they have to leave their parents after a set period of time and come back with you. So, and then in some cases, there are tears, there are tantrums, they don't want to go. So you have to be prepared to try to calm that young person down in whatever way you can, in terms of maybe depending on the day, or depending what time it is. You might just try to distract them by saying, let's go in the park and let's do an activity to sort of take their minds off of it, and speak to them, and just make sure that they're okay. And they might say some things to you that's not very pleasant. But as I initially said before, don't take it personal, because it's not you that they're actually saying these things to. But yeah, contact, and the contact is very important for them to maintain a connection with their families, because, as I said, it's their families, and they love them, whatever. But also be prepared to deal with the tantrums and that from the contact. And then sometimes you have some very nice, just say, bye mom, bye dad, and then you go home and you do whatever you have to do, whatever routine you have set for that young person. So yeah, that's part of it.
Brilliant, thank you, Ron. Well, I think we've talked a lot and covered many different subjects, but as I keep saying, please call at any time to talk about any area that we've discussed in further detail. At any time, we have a duty system, and there's always a supervising social worker there at the other end of the phone. So please call us to talk. We'd be happy to chat with you. Ron, thank you so much. That's been brilliant.
Lovely, you're welcome.
And thank you, anybody that's been listening. I hope it's been informative, and hope to speak to you soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.